Welcome back, everybody, to Let's Talk Business. I am Maria Medina, your business and networking coach. And today I have a guest that I met through another networking organization called The Playhouse. So if you're a creative, a little bit out there, something different, definitely go check out The Playhouse. I'll make sure to share the links in the chat. But Tonya, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi, well, thank you for having me, Maria. My name's Tonya Kubo, and I'm an online community strategist. So, my business really focuses on fostering belonging and connection in online spaces.
The moment that I met you, I was like, wow, I've never met anybody that does that. And I love it when that happens.
Yeah, well, it's one of those things that I always laugh about. Like for the pandemic, for some people, the pandemic just decimated their businesses. And then there are people like me where the pandemic actually put our businesses on the map. Because prior to the pandemic, I would tell people that I specialized in online community, and they looked at me like I was kind of off the wall. And then they'd say, "You mean like Facebook groups? But those are free. How do you make money at that?" And then after the pandemic, people would say, "Oh, you probably were really successful during the pandemic, weren't you?" And I'd say, "Yeah, I really was." But it's not just Facebook groups, it's any online platform where people want to gather together. And I always say it comes from a background of, being the kid who walks into the cafeteria and not having a place to sit. Those people who identify with that idea understand how important it is to have spaces where people feel welcome and included.
Yeah, I think building a community, building somewhere where you feel comfortable so that you can share your story and connect with people really allows for that community to build and grow further. Because then you're more likely to bring, like me just doing a shout out for the Playhouse. More people will come in because we're enjoying it, we're liking it. Let's bring more people into this community. Well, I would love to keep talking about your business, but this series is all about challenges and successes. So, if you were to share your biggest success so far, what would that be?
So, my biggest success, I'm assuming I get to talk in all of business, not just like community stuff, right? Okay. So, I think my biggest success in business was being able to leave a really successful university career to focus full time on my entrepreneurial passion, right? Like not everybody gets that benefit, but I've been doing this since 2019. I was smart. Like 6 months before the pandemic hit is when I started being a full time entrepreneur. And I just love the fact that I get to continue doing it today.
I'm going to add a little question to that because I think there's a lot of people that would love to get onto entrepreneurship and they don't know how. What would be like some of the first steps that someone needs to take when they do have that successful career? They have that background, everything that they've been doing, maybe for a lot of years. And then all of a sudden they're like, no, I want to start my own business. What would you say to that?
Yeah, well, so I think there's a few things, right? So I try to be really open and honest with people and say, I am married to a man who has a stable career that gives us our medical coverage and all of those things, right? So there's a position of privilege, I think, in just walking away from a really secure job and planting your flag in entrepreneurship. But one thing that I think is dip your toes in the water. I know a lot of people get fed up with their job. They have a bad day and they say, I'm going to quit this and be an entrepreneur. I didn't do that. I mean, this was 10 years in the making, 12 years in the making before I made the leap. So I had a side hustle for a while. And my side hustle changed as I figured out what it was I really wanted to focus on. There was a time where I thought I was going to monetize a mommy blog. And that lasted from about, I would say, 2010 to about 2014. And then I went, no, this doesn't make sense. And then, I was doing freelance social media management because that aligned with my day job. And then community, it was a passion of mine dating all the way back to 2007. And that's where I landed. So, what I would say is try it as a side hustle first, get really clear on what you enjoy and what you don't enjoy. I think sometimes we make the mistake of going, well, what could I make money at? And what you can make money at today isn't going to necessarily be the same thing that you can make money at 5 years from now. So if you're miserable, it's a really awful, awful existence.
I love that because a lot of people do focus on what's going to make me money. And then what if you don't like what you're doing when you're not making money from it? You're going to feel even more horrible than if you do actually like that's what keeps us going sometimes when we're not making money with the ups and downs of entrepreneurship. We might not be making the revenue that we were supposed to or that we think we should, but at least we're doing what we love.
Right. And you've had a brick and mortar business before. Like I have a good friend, their passion is they own laundromats. And when they talk about why they love their laundromat business, and they love it because it's a cash business, it's very easy to them, it's not technical, and they're so excited, and I'm just like, wow, that is so something I never want to do. I don't want to wash my clothes at the laundromat. Like that takes me back to college days. But I love that for you, right? I love that you have found an area that makes you happy, pays the bills, and allows you to do what you want on weekends and nights.
And we need people that love laundromats, and we need people that love cutting your lawn, and we need people that love all these things so that we can all live in a community together. I love where that conversation went. Now, there wouldn't be ups if there haven't been downs. What has been your greatest challenge so far, and how did you overcome it?
Oh, as you know, with entrepreneurship, there's so many. I think for me, to be really blunt, it's been the juggle of parenting and entrepreneurship because I was a workaholic when I worked for somebody else. My husband used to laugh all the time. He was like, "You can't go work for yourself until you can stop being a tyrant as a boss because you're kind of a nice employee and you should stop being such a jerk." But at home, it is so easy for me to overcommit to things because I'm home. And then I end up, working till midnight and my kids never see me. Here I am at home because I want more time with my kids, but I'm working so much I never see my kids. So that has been a huge challenge. Back to, I think I'm probably one of the only people who's grateful for the pandemic. I think there's a few of us, but the pandemic really showed me how much I was missing because they were home with me all day and helped me to reset my own perspective on what productivity looks like for me, what my true priorities are, and the fact that I really can only juggle one volunteer commitment at a time.
I find that once we align our priorities, so once we, this is our values, this is what we want to get in our life. So because of that, these are our priorities. And I always like to say, make it 3 to 5 priorities. And then if opportunities come your way and they don't align with that and they don't fit, it's so much easier to say no. Like you're like, actually, this doesn't align with what I'm trying to achieve. So it's easier to say no. And then when the opportunity does come that perfectly aligns with what you're trying to achieve, it gets you that much more excited. And you're like, yeah, I'd love to jump on that because it aligns with what I'm actually trying to do.
Yeah, and what I would say is this was hard for me to come to terms with, so I feel obligated to tell everybody else. No right now is not no forever, right? So what I had to realize is just because I'm saying no to a committee right now, or I was coaching a team at my kids' school for a while, and just because I say no this season doesn't mean they're never going to ask me to come back, doesn't mean I can't show up to the office one day and say, hey, I actually have a little bit of capacity right now. Do you have something I can help out with 1 to 2 hours a week? Right. I think we have been sold this idea that whatever decision we make today is a forever decision. And I don't know about you, Maria, but I have found in life there are very few things I'm actually saddled with forever.
Yeah. I mean, my wife,
I was like, spouses,
probably her husband.
yeah, spouses, kids, pets, criminal records. I mean, those are like the four things. Yeah.
Pretty much. Yeah, but I like how you said that because I've actually said that before to people. Don't be afraid to change your mind. So we were talking about setting your priorities. Those will change over time as you're growing, as you're changing, as your kids grow up and they move and there's different goals and there will be different priorities. So change them as you evolve and as you grow as a small business owner. What is something that you wish you would have known before you jumped into entrepreneurship that you could share with people?
I wish I would have known that however much I had saved in my retirement plan would not feel like enough. Wish I'd known that. But it really goes back to what you said. I didn't have enough people in my life like you who could help me appreciate how much I would grow and evolve in my journey of entrepreneurship. And so I did make decisions back then that I thought were going to be true for the next 5 years. And they weren't. And I wasn't always prepared to wake up one day and go, ooh, I know I was working really hard toward this, but this isn't what I want. and this is why I don't want it. It's taken a long time for me to build my own community of people like you who have guided others through the ups and downs of entrepreneurship, who could help me to appreciate that I'm not broken. It's not because my business model is bad. It's simply because I've changed over time. And what got me to this place is not what's going to get me to where I want to be down the line.
I find that a lot of clients actually hire me because of that vulnerability and because I say, like, look, even me, like this series itself, Let's Talk Business, is my second one. I had another one before this one that I stopped because it just wasn't working. It wasn't achieving what I needed it to achieve. And at some point, I needed to evaluate and admit that. Was I wrong? No, I didn't have the information that I had at the end of the series at the beginning of it. Would I have made the same decision? No, I wouldn't have.
Right. And what I love about what you were saying, right, is it's all about the information. Everything is data. Our wins are data, our losses are data, the things that kind of flop, it's all data, and data is neutral, right? It only has the positive or negative connotation that we assign to it. And I think your transparency and vulnerability is why we connected in the first place. It's why I'm even here, because we were able to have this great conversation with one another, completely honest, right? I don't feel like you brought your representative to the first blind date, and I don't feel like I had to bring my representative. And I feel like that more than anything is what I wish most first time or brand new entrepreneurs had in their circle, is other people who weren't faking it till they make it, because we need to know like what the good, bad, and ugly is before we fully jump in with both feet.
And we need to know that the people that we're working with are flexible and willing to grow and willing to learn.
Yes. And willing to help us achieve what we want, not a projection of what they think we should want or what they actually want.
100%. I totally agree with that. So, if there was one resource that you could share with that young entrepreneur, that person starting their business, what would that be?
So there's a lot of different directions, but I think a lot of us who are early entrepreneurs, we love books. One of my favorite books that really changed how I was viewing what I was doing and my priorities is this book called Free Time by Jenny Blake. Are you familiar?
No.
Okay. So the concept that hit home for me, it's not even what the book's really about, but it was about, rather than setting your sights on what you could do, it was just talking about how we get in this machine, like make more money. You sold this much, now sell this much. You got this result working 10 hours a week. What result could you get if you worked 20 hours a week? The author just encourages you to think through logically and critically what's enough for you. Like, what do you really need to make to put the groceries on the table? What do you really need to make in order for you to be happy and content and feel secure? And then what does it look like to build that business versus building this bigger is better business that sometimes ends up being a monster that costs more to feed than it ever puts in your pocket? And so that shift, I was just like, well, what is enough? And then that was the book that led me to realize that I was spending all this time away from my kids in pursuit of something that was supposed to bring me closer to my kids. So that would be my recommendation, because I think we get tons of messages about 6-figure business, 7-figure, 8-figure business, and nobody's really saying, how about this? Like, where are you at now and what feels good? Because for some entrepreneurs, as you know, 5,000 a month would be amazing for them. But it's hard to find a room where people will applaud you for wanting to earn 5,000 a month.
It's it's exactly how I coach my clients. I go in and they tell me, "Hey, I want to reach this much in sales." And my first question is why? Like what is the reason? I want to understand the reason. And the reason is because that's the industry standard. Unacceptable. The reason is because that's what the other people that are in my same business doing. No. What is your reason why you want to make that amount of money? If you can justify the reason why, then we can build a goal and you're going to be motivated. But if you're trying to achieve somebody else's goal, it's never going to be enough. And I literally today I had a session with a client, and the question that we walked away with was, what am I enough? Like, I feel like I'm not enough. What is enough? And if you quantify that, you figure out a way to find some sort of data point, whether it's a feeling, whether it's a number, what is enough? What is enough for you? Spending time with my kids, traveling more, maybe just hanging out at home and being able to afford my home to just do what is that? What is that enough? So that we can quantify it and the reason why. Why do I want to achieve that? And then we can build a plan around it. Don't tell me, hey, I bought this business. And you get this a lot as well with like franchises, with people that go into a company and they set these expectations, and we don't question these expectations. But it's like, what is the reason behind this goal? If I'm able to understand it, then I'm able to then break it down and achieve it. So I'm going to read that book now.
It's a quick read.
Okay, excellent. I hope they have an audio version.
They do, and she's got a good voice. She has I listen to it, yeah.
I'm listening right now to The Advice Trap. Have you read that?
No, but that sounds like the kind of book I need to read.
Yeah, so it's by the same author of, oh, I have it right here, of The Coaching Habit. So he wrote The
Okay.
Habit about being more curious, asking more questions. And then he came up with The Advice Trap in the sense that we always come in and we feel like we always have to fix a problem for somebody.
Mhm.
And they come to, and sometimes people just want to be listened to. Sometimes they don't need us to provide a solution or our opinion. They just need to vent. They just need to tell us, or even work through it as they're telling us. And I've had those conversations when I used to be a boss. I would have some conversations that would happen like that. They would walk in, they would start saying something, and I would just let them go on, and then they would literally just be like, oh yeah, and then I can do that, and they would walk out and knowing the answer without me saying one word. They would figure it out themselves.
Yeah, it's an external processor. I mean, I have done that too, where I'm like, wait a minute, I just said the answer. I'm going to go do what I just said. Thank you for listening and being my mirror. That was awesome. The other person's looking at you like, oh, okay, go do your thing.
Yeah, people underestimate being safe space, and sometimes that's all you need to be a safe space for somebody. So I thank you for that recommendation on that book. I'm definitely going to go check it out. And I always like to end the series with something memorable that people can remember you with. So what is one fun or unique fact or something that people don't know about you that you'd like to share with the community?
Okay, so the fun fact, at least this is what tickles people pink, is I actually went to college originally because I wanted to be an artificial inseminator. I wanted to work with livestock back in the early days of when they were trying to find different ways to, let's just say, expand their herds without necessarily having to have all the animals in the same place at the same time.
How does one get, know that that's what they want to go into?
First of all, one grows up in the country. Two, one goes to a country high school where they teach you how to do that when you're in high school. And you're like, and then they say, hey, if you ever wanted to do this as a job, this is how much it pays. And of course, you're in high school. And so you're like, that's a lot of money. What do I have to do it? And they're like, well, you have to go to a college that teaches it. And here's the colleges around here. And you're like, okay. So I went, and then I'm going to just introduce everybody to how risk comfortable I am. Don't necessarily get all the facts. So I went in, and like the science classes made sense. All of it was great. I had a blast. And it was the Central Valley of California in the middle of summer. And it occurred to me that I did not choose an air conditioned career. And so it took about 2 semesters, and I was like, it's really hot. I'm really sweaty. And then I had a roommate who was from Los Angeles, and she was like, I like you. You're a great roommate, but you smell like poop, and sometimes you come in covered in blood, and I'm out. And so I said, I'll change my major. And so I ended up in public relations, and that's how I got here today.
It all happens for a reason. You had to go through that career in order to switch, and I love that. But it goes to show what we were talking about before. We need people for everything,
Well, we need people for everything, like you said, and sometimes you have to do something you don't like in order to figure out what you do.
and it's okay to change your mind once you figure out that that's not what you want to do. So look, full circle. Thank you so much for being here today. If anybody would like to reach back out to you, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
You know what? If they can search me on LinkedIn, I always say like fungus, I'm everywhere, but then TonyaKubo.com is a great place to locate me.
Awesome. I'll make sure to share your LinkedIn and your website in the description. Please make sure to tune in for our next episode. And again, Tonya, I really appreciate you being here with us today.